Hello guys and welcome back to the BritVSJapan podcast. This is episode 3 and this podcast is essentially just an outlet for me to ramble on about all the different things that I find interesting or that I would just want to talk about, and you guys can help add to that by checking out the description, and you'll find a link there where you can submit your ideas and questions for me to discuss in the following episodes. If you're on YouTube, you can always just comment on the YouTube section and I'll have a look. So in today's episode, we are going to be talking about RTK, remembering the kanji. And so this is another episode that's going to be heavily related to Japanese learning. So if you are not a Japanese language learner, then I do apologize. However, we will have more episodes which are more related to just language learning and other concepts as well. So be sure to check out future episodes if this is not related to you. However, I've recently started live streaming and I got quite a few questions about RTK. A lot of people asking if RTK is still the way to go. And now I am a bit out of the loop. I haven't really been in touch with the language learning community for the past year. So there's probably new ways of doing kanji that are probably better than RTK. However, I would still say RTK is a great base. It is something that will not fail you. It is something that will definitely get you to learn kanji and be able to create that base that you need to get kanji under your belt. So the way I've always said to people about RTK is you need to do it. That's always been my opinion. And I've always just pushed that sort of, you have to do RTK. It's the only way to learn kanji if you want to do it quickly and efficiently. And sure, I used to believe this because that's the way I did kanji. And I never found any other ways of learning kanji that were better than that. It was the way that I did it and it worked. I managed to learn kanji within a month. And, well, not properly learn them, but I managed to learn the meanings in English and associate them with a kanji. And that created a great base for me to be able to start reading Japanese. It is an incredibly powerful, useful resource. Mnemonics are incredibly useful for learning things like kanji and kana, and it is highly recommended that you do check them out. However, obviously, if you don't like RTK, there is no reason that you should push yourself to do it. And this is something that I should have spoke about back in the day when I was doing all these guides for kanji. I should have just said, if you're not interested in doing this, don't do it. Don't force yourself. Because there's so many people that will try RTK and they won't like it and they'll give up and then they won't learn Japanese. And if that's the kind of person you are, you look at RTK and you think, do you know what, I don't think I can do this, or I don't like how this system works, that's perfectly fine. Find a different system. Find a different way of doing it. The main thing with language learning and learning in general is finding a way that suits you and is also fun and interesting to you. And it's also challenging to a certain extent. You need to have that challenge level there, otherwise it'll be obviously too easy and you won't learn anything. So that is the main takeaway, I think, from all this, is that, RTK is a way to learn kanji. It is, in my opinion, one of the better ways to learn kanji, if not the best way. However, obviously, if you are not if it doesn't suit you and it doesn't suit the way you learn, then definitely check out other ways of learning kanji. These days there are literally tons and tons of resources for learning different parts of Japanese and especially kanji. And there's just a bunch of websites that you can use, loads of free ones, stuff like Memrise, Duolingo, all sorts of different resources. Stuff that I wouldn't necessarily recommend, but if you're interested in it and it's something that sort of, gets you going, then fair enough. If you're someone who can sit down on Duolingo for 3 hours straight and clear all the levels, and you get a bit of a dopamine effect from that and you get a boost from that, then all the more to you. That's what you need to be doing. You need to be tricking your brain into doing more. That's essentially the whole process of language learning, is tricking yourself into doing more. The more you do, the better you're going to get. And even if, one method is less efficient than the other method, if you can't stick with the more efficient method, but you can stick with the less efficient method and you can do more of the less efficient method, then you're going to get more out of the less efficient method than you are out of the efficient method. I think that's probably common sense. I don't think it's talked about enough, though, in the language community, especially in the immersion sort of group. We tend to stick to our ways and we tend to sort of be very sort of this is the way you do it and any other way is incorrect, which I think is a very bad outlook on language learning. It's something that I think we should look down upon and sort of say, maybe doing it this way for some people does work, and maybe doing it this way for others also works. I don't think there's a right and wrong answer, and I'm glad that I sort of changed my mindset from that, because I would get comments on YouTube back in the day of people saying, I've done immersion learning for like 3 years and I've not picked up any Japanese. What's going on? And it's obviously someone who doesn't enjoy immersion, someone who probably isn't doing it correctly, and they're not getting enough immersion in, or they're not doing it the right way, or they're listening to stuff that's way too hard, or they're just not having a good time with it. And they've always had negative emotions towards immersion. That's something that's also a thing. Krashen, part of his language learning hypothesis is that if you're in a negative environment, you have high levels of stress, you're not going to acquire language. So that is like a huge thing as well, is to obviously make sure that you are in a relaxed environment whenever you are learning anything to do with the language that you're trying to learn. It is essential that you do whatever's right for you, and that you focus on whatever is helping you and whatever you see results from. So I would highly recommend, if you're not enjoying RTK, to change it up. Have a look at other stuff that is similar to RTK, or that helps you learn kanji in an efficient, effective manner. Obviously, a lot of people might not know essentially what is a good, effective, and efficient manner when it comes to studying things like kanji. But what I would say is anything that teaches you very small nuggets of information to do with the kanji at a time, and something that uses mnemonics, is going to be a great resource. It doesn't necessarily have to be RTK, as I said. It could be any other use of mnemonics. It could be any other use of teaching kanji, as long as they teach you in bite sizes and they teach you in bits at a time, and they don't just say, right, this is the kanji for blood. Here's how it's read this way. Here's how it's read this way. This is all the history of the kanji. This is where it comes from. This is the most common words. That's too much. You don't need all that. You need, at the beginning, very small bite-sized chunks of information to do with the kanji, and from there you can progress and build off of that. So if I was to look for alternatives to RTK, that's what I would do. I would look for something that, as I said, teaches you in very small bite-sized chunks, that isn't too difficult, something that's kind of like popping bubble wrap, where you can just sit down, do it on your phone throughout the day, and learn very easily and very simplistically. I would make sure I also use mnemonics. Mnemonics is something that's very much essential when it comes to language learning. You can sort of learn without it, but obviously you'll be learning through rote memorization, which is very difficult to do. If you are going to try and learn something, try and use mnemonics, because it is definitely a brain hack. It's definitely a way of sort of more efficiently getting stuff into the long-term memory. And so I'd highly recommend using those and doing a little bit of research. There's plenty of videos on YouTube about mnemonics, and so I would definitely recommend checking that out and sort of having a look at that and seeing how you can study and use that in your study methods to improve your learning of kanji and learning of language learning in general. So guys, that's it for episode 3. If you have any questions, or if you would like to leave a comment, then check out the description, or if you're on YouTube, go to the comment section and leave a comment there. And guys, I'll see you in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed, and have a nice day.